Good morning, everybody. Ace of Trades here, February 26th, 2026. Bible verse for today is Proverbs 26:22. It says, "The words of a talebearer are as wounds, and they go down into the innermost parts of the belly." The things we say can often hurt somebody more than things that we could do. So, gotta be mindful of the things that you say to people. Um, all right, so what do we got here today? So on the chart here, I got the overnight high. I put it up here, and you see there's a gap here in the bars. This is where you could even put it up here, perhaps, but I'll put it there. So we see we ran into that. So this is where prices closed last night when the futures market closed. 5 o'clock probably. And then this, as you can see, this is where it opened at 6 o'clock. And we just hit the regular session. I'm going to show you something else here. So I put it here because prices will, obviously the overnight low is here. Prices will often try to fill this gap that was left. And you can see that we came up and we did with a wick, we filled that gap. And so you can see here, you have two pretty nice legs. One leg up, two legs up, separated by these three big red bars. And again, I'll show you what not to do. What people will do is they'll try to create a wider channel out of this, and boy, that looks nice. And say you got a setup off here, you can see how that's going to kill you, because prices will try to reverse after two clear legs, not infrequently. So again, be aware of not creating wider channels out of two clear legs. So looks like we're headed back down to the try to get down to the overnight lows again. Maybe we'll just be in for a range day today. We'll see. So what I'd like to see is maybe a couple clean legs back off this move down to get in with a retest of this move down. But we'll just stop it there, and I'll come back when there's something else happening. Okay, let's talk about what's happened here. So I think when I left, we were kind of up in this area. We just started, or no, where were we? Maybe in there. I think we were coming down off these two legs. And so I was looking for maybe this to come down and give me a couple legs back. We just got one kind of weak leg, and then it just kind of just started grinding lower off the EMA, choppy, broke out of the overnight lows, started going sideways. So when you get in here, I had these two legs down, though they're not super clear. I mean, you can see them, but they're not separated like by two nice legs, or I'm sorry, by a clear like correction like this. Like I'd be looking for something more like stronger separation, and then another decisive leg, not this choppy stuff all the way down. It's kind of like it's not what you're looking for. See how these are very clear. This is very choppy. So when we got down here, then you want to be aware of maybe prices trying to fade, and they do a couple of times, and they just so weak they fail. They fail out of this little range. They try to fade back up into it and can't, and then we just get this like huge move down. Um, so we get this huge move down, and then obviously when we get a big trend like this, we're looking for a couple of legs of correction. This is not like exactly what I'm looking for here. This is like, yeah, I can see that there's to the tick there's one attempt, and this would be a second attempt, but that's really like that's really kind of weak for how big of a move this is. And if you would draw, that's kind of blocked. I'm just concerned that this is not, it's going to want to correct more than that. Is my concern. But there is a to the tick second attempt there that the bar is not great either to enter on. Maybe if this had closed better, I might think about it, but I'm not going to try to take something that's that weak. And then we just kind of chop sideways and push up and push back down. Now this has made a new low, so you have to be careful about. This seems pretty weak but you have to be careful about prices trying to reverse. Um, I'd want to see like more continuation down before I start looking for another short. I'm not going to short that like as a lower high or anything, because you can see somebody, if we scroll this over to, if we're looking at this area right here, if we slide this over to right there, as you would see it printing, some people may want to like take that as lower high thinking this is going to retest, but it's just not, you're not really coming on, it's not really, you're not really coming off a new trend that's you're expecting a new low for. So that's just, I'm still worried about prices trying to fade up here, because you have two legs down, and I'm still worried about a fade. I'm not looking at trying to take something like that. And so again, you can see what happened here. If somebody's like looking at that as a lower high they want to take, it's just not, it's not good to try to take those. Um, but anyway, we're just kind of, now you can see we're just kind of chopping sideways here for a little bit, and we'll just, you just got to wait and see what the price action does. Um, I have no real idea about if this is going to keep going down. It may, because of how weak this is, but because it's chopping sideways, maybe this is trying to bottom here and is going to make some attempt to go back up. Um, just don't know right now. All right, so we were down in here, or I said this was starting to go sideways. I wasn't sure if this was because of how weak this was, if this would keep going down, or if this was kind of sort of like prices bottoming here. Then we spiked up, and you just kind of have to look at this. This looks really nice right now, but as you're watching the price action, you have this, and then in the back of your mind, you're thinking this is very, very sharp down. So, um, this is pushing up, and um, so these wouldn't be here. Let's just pull this down for now. Um, so I'm thinking that this looks like this is kind of running out of steam. Of course, you don't want to pick any tops or anything because you never know. And as this keeps hitting the EMA, um, this really looks like every time it looks like this is the momentum is wearing out here. You can see how sharp that was, and then a little steeper. You can see how we're just not pushing up as far with each push, so it looks like we're running out of steam. But we just keep pulling back to the EMA. Then we went into kind of this range here, and then we push up out of it. And at this point, this is about when I put this on here and drew this, and then once you get that touches up there again and kind of reestablishes um, the momentum to the upside, then you have a nice channel you can trade off of. And I was looking for a second leg back here, but I just don't like how high that closed into that swing to take that. This could want to push down again, but that's where it goes up, and here's where we are right now. So I'm just looking to see how this, we'll extend this here. And we'll just see if this trend keeps going and we can get a couple nice legs back to take a trade. Um, you know, even if this would have pushed down just a little bit, not closed so far back up into that swing, I'd have been in for that trade right there. But it didn't close too high. It just looks too sideways right here for me. So, um, if you're aggressive, it's definitely something that you could maybe try. I'm just, I always say in my videos, I'm not really aggressive. I just want things that are very clear. Um, and this just closed up too high, too close to the swing for me. So um, we'll just leave it there and we'll just see how this trend goes. So shortly after we had this trend drawn, we just fell back down through. Um, and when it pushes down this hard, this far, not really looking at this as that is like that's not a break. This is momentum is flipping back down to the short side for now. So I was looking for some sort of correction against this trend, and we just basically get one leg and then it just dumps down. So this move down has a new low. We could still get, because how much we've been, you can see how strong this has been all day down so far. We could keep pushing down here and push past these lows, but just have to be very careful now in the short term, looking for a short because this trend has broken and made a new low. So I'd be looking for, something to push up here and just like maybe fail back down and keep pushing and then maybe end up getting like a bigger channel working down that you can work with. But right now, if we got like a couple legs up here, I'm probably gonna lay off any type of setup that appears because the rule of thumb is once this breaks, makes a new low, then prices often will try to reverse, at least even if it's just for a little bit. So that will, with the type of setups we're looking for, type of targets we're looking for, that can sometimes get you trapped if you keep trying to go with the previous in the previous directions momentum. So yep, that's where we're at now, and I'll be back again later. Okay, so like I said, um, you need you have to avoid these setups. This didn't trigger, but there will be people that will try to take that as a second attempt, thinking this made one attempt higher, two attempts higher, now we're going to go down. But like I said, once this makes a new low, you need to have the discipline to stay out of just looking at a pattern because the context, whether this pops up here a little bit and then dumps again, is irrelevant. You just have to have the discipline to follow the rules of the system. And the rule is once this just channel breaks and makes a new low, then we just stay out of any short setups until it maybe further confirms that it's going to keep going down because prices will often try, at least they'll try to reverse um, after trends break and make a new low. And so, and what if you're new here, what do I mean? So you can clearly see there's a big trend working down here. Okay, you can see how prices fit pretty good in there. And when the trend breaks, that means the prices pop out of the trend on a correction. And so it breaks the structure of the trend and then prices push down past this low to make a new low. Prices will often at least try to reverse. So when you get a pattern, like if I would talk about looking for two legs on the break of the structure. So if I would get two legs of correction on the break of this structure, then I'm looking to short because the trends, the probability is that they will want to make, or they will attempt to make a new low. So there is a high probability after two legs of correction that you will at least be able to have an opportunity to capture some points, provided we get our setup that we want. But after it makes the new low, you want to stay out of those pattern setups because prices are going to try to go the other way. And you can see, had this triggered, you would have been stopped out of that trade, even if temporarily, because prices are trying to push up. Now, it's very weak, so they're pushing back down here, and so that's the stuff that will frustrate you to no end. When you take these, it stops you out just by maybe a couple ticks, even a point, and then it just goes where you thought it was going to go, because um, that is how prices operate in markets. So anyway, so now if this keeps dumping down, starts pushing down strongly again, then I'm okay. Then I'm ready to look for shorts again because we're reestablishing momentum to the downside. So we just have to wait and see what happens here. So we got this. We had this move down. We had the break here. I think we talked about that. And then this pushed up. I know this is kind of small, but I want you to be able to see some context here. So on a bigger picture, you see how we have this whole big move down here before we get a much larger correction. And, I didn't honestly see this as two legs up, but if you look at this here, this big sharp move up, and then this shallower trend is the second leg, you got two legs up there. And once we got this down, once we got this second leg and we pushed down through here, then I started looking at this as maybe this whole thing is one leg down. Maybe this is one attempt higher, two attempts higher. Here's your second leg down. But we need to be aware of this now as, you know, in this zone here, we bounced again and we got kind of a stronger push up there. So, this may, on a bigger picture, this may have been the attempt to make a new low for this whole move down. So it's possible here we could be getting a stronger push up. We want to be aware of this level as a level of resistance. If we get up into that area and you see some sort of possible setup to go long, you want to be careful about that. We want to see if we can get a structure here going up. Now, sometimes when you get these, you're not going to necessarily get a nice clean structure off the very low, because what this is this is, um, one attempt, a second attempt for this move down that's failing. So this you could kind of look at as, still connected to this move down. So maybe the move up comes off of here if you're going to draw something. So it started just ranging right away here. But now anytime if prices come back down into this area, you want to be careful about shorting into them off setups, because we bounced here again in this zone. So you want to be aware the rest of the day about this being a support zone if prices come back into here, and also that we may, just get a stronger attempt to move up now, since this bigger move has made an attempt to create a new low for its initial move down. So I'd be looking for finding some sort of structure here, potentially that we could draw up and maybe get a long off of, if something develops. But if we zoom in here, um, I didn't really see anything. Um, you can see how this little support area here, prices push out, it tries to push back in and rejects off of it and pushes down. And then even this little move down by itself gets a break and a new low. So, looks like prices are moving up now. All right, so we're on the 4,000 tick chart here, and I just wanted to show you how, sometimes you have to go out to a bigger time frame to kind of see what's going on. So potentially we have here maybe the center of a pattern for a bigger structure. So you have this leg down, you have one leg up, you have a second leg up, and so this could be the beginning of the correction that gives us maybe the second attempt for new low for this big structure down. Now there is a chance here that we have a wider trend forming for this uh, move up. So we'll just have to watch that as well. I mean, if you look at this as a leg and then a correction and second leg, then this structure already has a break and a new high. But right now, this is fitting pretty good off of this channel, which is easier to see on here on the 4,000 tick time frame than it is on the 2,000 tick, which we'll flip over to see here. You can still kind of generally be able to draw that pattern, but I'm definitely not thinking about going along here after you already have this made a new high. And I always talk about being careful about trying to trade um, wider channels off of clear legs. And additionally, you're into this spot where prices found resistance and fell back down before. So unless this keeps pushing up here, and maybe goes up here and to the other side of this trend line, kind of confirms that yes, indeed, there is a wider channel, then I'm not looking to go long here until price action shows me what it wants to do. Maybe it'll just peter around here for a little bit and then fail, or maybe it'll be strong and push up, but we just have to wait and see what it gives us. Market's just about to close now, and we can see we didn't really get anything after. You can see here by these two big legs up starting from here to here. Make this a little bit bigger. Okay. Here to here, and then from here to here. After we hit this measured move level, we started to struggle, and the market's just kind of been going sideways. I thought that maybe I was looking for, after we did this here down, I was looking for one leg, two legs back to get a reversal, thinking that the markets may start to try to head down now, but they just kind of ended up just going sideways after we ran into this measured move level. Um, so this bar here, I don't really like it because of the EMA is just so close there. And I'm not quite sure. Will we try to? You can see how prices tried to bounce there momentarily. I wasn't sure if we get some kind of push back up here for like another push up. So ended up not getting anything today. I just didn't see. The only thing you might have tried was over here, right here. I talked about this earlier in the video. You get these two very kind of thin legs up, decent bar, but it's still, I just don't like it because it's a doji. And for this move down, that's a really tiny two legs of correction. But it does push down and it does create a new low by the body, even if not um, by the wick. That was the only thing I really liked today. Now on the 4,000 tick bar chart, if we flip over there and look in this area, had something like that shown up or had I been on this chart, I like going short there because on here you've got a lot of room to the EMA. You clearly have two big legs up and you're in an area of resistance here with a lot of room there. So I would be okay with taking that. I wasn't looking at the 4,000 tick chart at the time when that printed. Um, so obviously didn't get in on the 2000. I just don't like how close it is to the EMA right there. So that's pretty much our price action for the day. Quite a bit. It slowed down quite a bit once you got into like you can see down here by the 20-minute timestamps. Once we got into like 12:30, it really slowed down. Um, so we're just kind of going sideways here. You can see we had a lot of action early in the day and then two legs up, and I thought maybe this is going to be the start of like another move down, but it might have just been how late in the day we were. There's really not a lot of time to get back down there during the open session. So that's pretty much our market analysis for the day. I didn't see anything else. I mean, I kind of went through here during the day, just updating every couple hours or so, and I didn't really see anything I particularly cared for. Um, so be back again tomorrow, hopefully.